Hello and welcome. Today we have Mr. Sabih Behzad. He is the head of Digital Assets and Currency at Deutsche Bank. Welcome to the show, Mr. Behzad. It's wonderful to have you. Could you tell us your role in Deutsche Bank?
My role essentially covers the corporate bank and the investment bank. Obviously, as Deutsche Bank, we have a retail arm as well, but I'm less involved on the retail side of things. Really, my focus is corporates and financial institutions. And the role is really around bringing the topic of blockchain, DLT, digital assets to life within Deutsche Bank. So my role encompasses looking after the strategy around how we should be approaching that topic. It revolves around understanding what our execution plan should be to get there and some of the technological choices that we might need to make in order to equip that. So it's very much a role that's driven on the business side of things, but I partner, of course, with friends and colleagues across technology, the control functions, some of the other support functions in order to deliver that strategy.
Thank you very much. We're trying to understand where banks are in their digital transformation journey. So, with respect to Deutsche Bank, could you let us know where are you in your digital transformation journey?
Sure. So obviously, digital transformation as a topic is quite broad, but at least in the context of digital assets, it's a relatively new topic for us. So we've really only accelerated our journey, I would say, in the last couple of years. And we've now got a good number of projects where we are seeking to explore how we build out those capabilities. For example, one of the areas that we're trying to build out is we're seeking to offer digital asset custody to our clients, which is really the safekeeping of digital assets. That's a journey that we've been working on for perhaps the last 18 months or so. We've taken big strides towards choosing the technology vendor we want. We've partnered with them, and we're now building out that capability. And it's capabilities like that we're going to seek to deploy over the course of the next few years. So I would say it's a purposeful journey. It's a journey that will take a number of years, but we've certainly broken ground on it and started down that path.
What are the challenges you face while working on this digital transformation, specific to digital assets, since you're working on that?
Yeah. So I think, digital transformation is difficult at the best of times. It's never a straightforward thing. But I think it's particularly complicated when you come to digital assets. And the reason is the digital asset market is very nascent. So today you don't have a lot of volume where you can simply say, well, because this business is so large and compelling, I should plow large sums of money, large number of resources in order to try and get the transformation complete. What that means is, from a digital transformation perspective, is you need to have a roadmap and you make more slow, steady, experimental investments into trying to reach that end state. So that is the journey that we're on. So that's one clear challenge, that the level of investment needs to match essentially the return we're likely to get, which means by its very nature, it'll be more slow and steady rather than rapid. Okay. The second piece I would say is, something that we've talked about previously. It's about integration with legacy. That's a real challenge. Mm-hmm. The question is, how do you stand up this new infrastructure whilst at the same time ensuring that you can plug it into your legacy? Because of course, the moment you stand up these systems, they need to feed into your tax, your accounting, your reporting, your compliance systems, and that's a real challenge.
How are banks looking at launching new employee experience, product experience, and customer experience, and while embracing the new technology?
I think the user experience, whichever of those different personas you talk about, whether it's employees, whether it's customers, etc. I would say we're at a point in time where the necessity to deliver a good user experience really trumps almost everything else, right? And so, as we're thinking about design, as we're thinking about delivery, that's one of the first thoughts we have, right? Which is, how will this feel for a client? How frictionless, to the extent we can make it, can we make it? Now, again, as I said earlier, digital assets is a nascent topic, which means not all of the tools and user experiences exist today that make that experience as seamless as it might be. Just to give you an example, if you wanted, for example, to own some crypto today, you would need to go and open a MetaMask wallet, which involves essentially downloading a bit of software on your browser, setting it up. It's quite fiddly, it's not straightforward, and it's not something that an average person off the street would necessarily feel comfortable with, especially when we're talking about putting something of value into that browser, in essence. So what we've thought about is, how do we try and make that process as frictionless as possible, while at the same time ensuring security, stability, and an optimal user experience. it's a real challenge. I think we're trying to find that balance as we're building out our solutions.
In the context of real time, how do banks ensure seamless and instant real time experience for their customers?
It's a really hard question because the actual interesting question is, why is it not already a seamless and instant experience? And there's a few things that stop that. One is limitation that exists with technology today. There are some things which mean that we cannot deliver an experience instantly because the technology requires us to wait or redo or to validate a transaction. That's one piece. But there's also regulatory restrictions on us from time to time. So, for example, if there is a payment flow that we want to represent or accept, or a asset that we want to accept from a blockchain, we have to usually run that through some sort of sanction screening, for example. We need to make sure there's no illicit activity associated with that. And that could mean that it's not instantaneous for a client because there's a necessity from a regulatory perspective to do that. So, very long-winded way of saying, it's always something that we look to try and prioritize. We want our customers, our clients, our employees, whoever's using any of the services that we're building out to have that seamless experience. But at the same time, we have to acknowledge that that won't be possible in all cases because of those limitations on us.
When enhancing customer experiences with customized offerings and pricing, how do you manage the tailored pricing demands that comes from your customers?
I would say, at least on the digital asset side, it's quite a nascent topic for us. So we haven't got to the stage where we're having to service a large number of clients and having to constantly fluctuate or adjust that pricing. At the moment, we're very much at the stage where we know how approximately we want to charge for the services, but I think that more sophisticated model would develop over time. I would say, for some of what we do, it'll be easier to do that because it's much more of a volume-based type of transaction. Custody being a prime example. Custody is very much a component of the value of the goods you're custodying, right? That would mean you value a certain amount of goods, and then you can charge a commission based on the value of those goods that you have got under custody. So that's a relatively easy example. I think where it gets more complicated is when you're doing something like tokenization of assets, where actually the activity of tokenization will be very much dependent on the individual product and service or solution that you're looking to tokenize. And I think for that, we have not yet got to the stage where we're able to apply those models dynamically. But I think your question goes in the right direction. As we scale up that business, we're going to need to be able to do that. So it's something that we're thinking about, but we're probably not at that stage yet where we need to implement.
In the process of customizing experiences, do the business or the technology teams that come first?
Come first. That's a great question. I think I think neither comes first is the truth, and I know that's a very diplomatic answer. But one of the things that we've done certainly within the corporate bank in Deutsche Bank, and more generally in Deutsche Bank, is we very much embrace the concept of agile development.
Okay.
Which means that our teams are often cross-functional. So you have the developers sit next to the business people, sit next to the compliance people, sit next to the control people, and that means when we're trying to come up with a design or a concept, we have everyone in the room together. So nobody comes first. Everyone's involved in that discussion. But I will go back to what I said earlier. We do start with wanting to have a seamless and frictionless experience for clients. We obviously need to layer that with whatever restrictions we have, whatever constraints we have. But the client is at the center of everything we do, and that's how we like to try and build our solutions.
How does your bank view the role of consulting organization in facilitating the transformation initiatives?
That's a good question. I think, firstly, I would say there are many different types of consulting companies, and having been a former consultant myself, I've been on the other side of the fence and had to pitch to banks and other financial institutions. You have, roughly speaking, kind of pure play strategy type consulting firms. You'll have more consulting firms that are involved in implementation. You'll have firms that are very deep into the technology. So you have the full gamut of consulting companies. I think consulting companies can serve a very, very useful purpose, and it's something that we're always very open to at Deutsche Bank. Of course, one has to balance cost, return, value add from those partners, but it's something we're open to. I think one of the things, of course, consulting firms can do is provide you industry insight because they may have implemented something similar at another bank or another financial institution. Therefore, they can bring that learning to bear when you're trying to deploy your solution and avoid wasted effort. That's one big advantage. The second advantage they tend to have is they are usually quite structured in their approach. So because they have special experience of implementation, they're able to come up with a good plan, a very well articulated set of activities, and able to guide the organization through that. So that works quite effectively.
Yeah.
And thirdly, the other big thing that they tend to bring is resources in large numbers when you need them. And that's a very important capability to have, especially in the digital asset space.
Mm-hmm.
As it's so nascent, there aren't a huge number of development or technology resources out there. So the fact that you can actually tap into these companies, they can help deliver that capability for the time you need it, and it's not necessarily a cost that you then run with for the long term, can be incredibly useful. So a partnership is always something that we evaluate carefully.